Hello. Hi, everyone. Can we turn off the, okay, yeah. Oh, I kind of liked it, actually. Um, Welcome to the ICA and to Test Pattern. My name is David Riley. I'm a curator here, and I'm really excited to announce tonight's performance, which is Kinlaw, who's a choreographer and composer. And if you have not been to Test Pattern before, it's a performance series that launched this year, and it invites visiting artists to use this auditorium as a production studio. And Kinlaw has created, as you can see, is sort of a moving sound sculpture tonight called Circuit 3, which combines speakers, moving mic sculptures, sound sculptures, and uses feedback. And as you probably know, feedback is something that most musicians and artists and sound engineers try to avoid, but not tonight. But no worries. Kinlaw is someone who turns feedback into something that is beautiful, gentle, meditative, as you will see. So tonight is really about deep listening, listening to subtleties, and relaxing. So a few ground rules. If you do need to leave the auditorium during the performance, please exit through the back second floor entrance. And we do encourage mask wearing if you have a mask. Other than that, have a great night. The performance will run about 35 minutes, followed by an intermission, and then there will be a talk tonight between Kinlaw and Dr. Kate Sicchio, who's in the audience. And we'll also be inviting the audience to come down onto the stage and to play around and have a more hands-on experience. So finally,
I gotta get to know the reasons for the things that I do. I keep taking up the lines to stay in touch with you. You see, I cleared my life, swapped out my key just to keep it on a ring, hanging it by my brand new door. I've gotta get to know the truth to how do I feel now, and why I can't let go when time opens wider. I've been feeling like I'm caught in the moment, but they're all ones that I've wrangled and tied up. I think I'm building a potential control freak with pieces to parts I cannot hold on to. If there's a way to love you, you know I'll dig it up. And I know that I'm a lot, but who else will work this hard? 'Cause I'm feeling like I'm caught in the moment, but they're all ones that I've scripted and have titled now. I'm always gonna be a potential control freak with no one to blame but my own now. But I'll get it by the weekend. Oh. I'll put my head down and I'll let the car go. And I'll finish it on time. Built by a sensitive guy, with all the parts how I like. And even though I move fine, I somehow miss the math. But the mechanic might know that. If you want me, you can come to where I am. And if you follow my lead, what do you see? What do you see? See, there is a system set between us, as I'll drop some clues in the machine, keeping our hands locked in our own odd kind of pact we have. We've got me, the feeler and the mechanic. If you want me, you can come to where I am. And if you follow my lead, oh well, what do you see? You say it isn't often that you feel like this, but you know this is no ordinary way. You said it's like a socket it on a stone. But you said and then you say again, hello. There's no science here now. That this is feeling and feeling so hard. So you take my hand and then you run with it like ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. So if you want me, you can come into where I am. And if you follow my lead, well, what is it that you see? No. And then if you want me, you'll know to go where I go. And when you're looking at me, well, what is it that you see? Put down my head, but it won't be forever. I'm signing over my hand just to take it back, 'cause there really is no part of me you wanna own. Why me, why me, why me? Watch me sit right back. Stay here just staring at the window. No, I won't go, this is what I said. Is there a way to care from away? 'Cause if I stay right here staring at the window, I'll never know. I'm signing over my head. You should see me now, moving in that fast car down the road. I've got a single white hair from my head into your mouth. It grows irresponsible and it grows long. Sometimes I can hardly feel myself moving around. Fumbling towards something that's new ground. Why me? Why me? Why me? And now I sit right back, watching the ways it all can crumble. And I'm counting change with a hand unknown. I've gotten old trying to push out of the habits that I've grown into something I don't even know. So this is what I said. This is what I said. I study love like it's emotion that's meant to be filled. I study you and I see so many choices that I need to find my own permissions. I study love like it's impossible not to, like it's a pocket that I can put my palm into. And I look at you like you're someone that's meant to move me. That's when I said, hey, this is what I said. This is what I said. This is what I say. I study love like it's emotion that's meant to be filled. I study you and I see so many choices that I need to find my own permissions. I study love like it's impossible not to. Like it's a pocket I can put my palm into. And I look at you like you're someone that's meant to move me. This is what I said. This is what I said. This is what I said. I said, I get someone that's meant to move me. I study love like it's emotion that's meant to be felt. I study and I see so many choices. Study love like it's
We're like, check, 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 check. Hey everyone, welcome back. I kind of want to do this from over here. Let's see. This is the Q&A portion, but we want to do this in a, more relaxed way. You're welcome if you're curious to come closer. We also have these chairs on the floor and more over here. If you want to come down and really be down here, we welcome you all down here to talk. And we are going to move on to this portion with Dr. Kate Sicchio, who is a VCU professor who got some fans, and moves between dance and new media at the Kinetic Imaging department, and seemed like the perfect complement to this performance. So I'm really happy to have you here, and our camera's rolling. All right, one more click. All right. Test pattern 5, talk back.
Hello. So yeah, do feel free to come down and be in the set with us. Yeah, you don't have to be far. Yeah, so thank you, Kinlaw. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful work. Just so many layers of loops and reflections and this sense of play, but also such precision that really struck me. It's not just about the liveness of the loop, it's about getting it just right. Which is makes you feel on edge, but also really something's important's about to happen because it has to be right. And so I guess I'm maybe I'll start with the first question around that. How does the feedback loop and the reflection and how does that become a composition for you? At what moment, when you're that's lovely, I was oh, it's lovely, she nailed it. What is, what happens there? What's the magic moment of the feedback loop?
Can you hear me if I just speak in the back? Can you hear me?
The stream won't hear you, so this is for the stream too.
I guess the answer is that there's no, what I like about this work is that there's, and as you also know, there is no right, and even when it is right, it passes by so quickly that you can't hold on to it. So I think there are, I kind of bracket things off, I make sometimes sections when I think about work like this, because it can really flow off into the abyss, and you just, so I hold on to things a sense of time, a sense of a cycle, or a sense of when it feels complete, which is still also a little abstract, but I think it's at this point in my life just kind of playing with performative intuition, which feels like a real treat, because I haven't always made work that's been open enough to follow that, and so I think at a certain point I purposefully started designing performances that could lend itself to following your intuition, that is also, as you said, has a precision in that it's rehearsed, in that things like the limiter and the speed, things like that, you can have precision in that way while still knowing that you can't control. So I like that. Feels very much like life. So.
I mean, are you ever just fuck it, I'm gonna crank everything?
Yeah, and then that, and that's what's cool too, because just life, you can also be moody, or you could be really risky, or and I think this not knowingness feels. I'm really kind of excited to get to that point in work, because I feel in my life that maybe I thought that I was experimenting And I was at that time, but now I really feel like I'm experimenting. In that, like, I really just don't know how it's going to go. And I think that, like, what a cool thing to, like, share it with people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it also makes me think of, like, the system itself.
Yeah.
This, like, choreographic system full of these choreographic objects. And how like each one might feel simple on its own, like, oh, it's a mic and it's a monitor. But then you've put them in this, like, relationship that's totally different and askew, and yeah, creates something really new. And so I guess I'm interested in, like, yeah, what are there rules for this system, or is there like an algorithm? Like you mentioned sections, or is there a way to do it wrong?
I guess the way to do it wrong would be to not do it at all. And you know, for me, it kind of feels like I'm torn between, well, to answer like the first part of the question, like I really, really, really like using normal stuff, like the ladder there. Like that's not the first time I brought out a ladder. Like I love a ladder. They're beautiful. I use them. You know, these speakers, they're nothing new. Like the dollies were kicking around the ICA, cables around the ICA. You know, the motor that spins everything, those are windshield wiper motors that I got from the car shop. They are. And, you know, these like old power supplies and, you know, these things, clamps. Like I really just like the kind of tidiness and also the like in construction-ness of it. That's not because we here with this production were lazy or fast, it's because it's intentional, and I find it really beautiful. So so there's that. And I think like, yeah, like I said, the way to maybe play with this wrong at this point in my life is to stop or to not do it because I feel afraid. So that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this idea of like the simple to the complex really comes out in this piece, and I think looping does that, yeah. Right? Like the idea of like, yeah, if it happens once, then it's just that moment. But if you keep doing it, it's just gonna grow. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that was really struck me as like these things that are seemingly simple just grow exponentially in this work. Yeah.
I love that. And I think that like even so also in my life, I'm also a choreographer, and I design pretty large scale dance pieces that also incorporate sound elements, things like the floor being mic'd. That stuff I played with a lot in some of like my dance pieces, and really just and even, you know, with building sculpture stuff, like it's about like trying to figure out this connection between, you know, movement and sound, and the movement of the speakers, where I move them being really integral to the score, and having like the movement of people in the space, how you know, and basically like David said it a couple days ago and I keep repeating it, but you know, with stuff like this, you're essentially playing the room, and that's a really interesting design, you know, is to think about. I've always thought about like space in the work that I do, but I think that this brings it to like a kind of exciting new place for me, where you really are playing like the dimensions of a room, and it's really contingent on the number of people who are in the room, or if you choose to like walk in front of a speaker or not, or if you're seated as you are. There's so many different variables. I kind of find it fun, but again, like playing with, you know, gesture, physicality, distance, sound, those things feel really exciting to me when they're connected. Yeah.
Should we open it up, see if there's any questions in the audience?
I have a microphone here too. Oh.
I've got one too. I think there's another one floating around.
I'm just curious what draws you to feedback, because it's such a difficult sound to work with. And then this is at such a large scale, working with it too, it's really cool.
Thanks. I think it's because it's chaotic. And I think that's why, I haven't always I actually have like a background in my first phase of artistic life. I was a classical opera singer, and so that's really different from where I am now. Hee hee. Yeah, so I was really contained. That's what my ear liked at the time, and that's really what my voice liked at the time. Like my body loved to sing classical music and to learn something strict and technical and strategic, and to do it in the within the phrase. And because I was at that time younger, and I was singing really fast music, and it felt so good. And now I think just I've changed a lot since then, and I think that having that variable of unknown, and also I think feedback has been interesting to me because you really do see that that motion to sound kind of relationship. And I know someone will say, well, yeah, we play the piano, that's motion to sound, and it is. But I think it has to do with building of a new instrument, building of a new object, and reimagining what two instruments suspended from the ceiling might look like. And for me, feedback is just where I'm at right now. Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious about your the general process of calibrating or designing and adjusting those things. Can you sort of talk a little bit more detailedly about that? Because we have a bunch of sound people here who are all very curious about that.
Cool. Well, here's what I think the question is, and you tell me if I'm right. So it's wanting more detail in terms of building this project out in particular, starting from here, or just starting from anywhere?
If you have other pieces, or that has also been dealing with the, it's did you do this over here, or you have other pieces also here?
Yeah. That's okay. Okay, cool. I'll give you logistics, and then I'll give you from the heart or something. So logistics are I built these pieces mostly upstate New York, where I had space and I could also ask questions to some folks. I also had access to a metal shop and a wood shop, which I imagine you probably also have around here. And I'll tell you, I didn't totally know how to use those shops at first, and I just asked a bunch of questions and stuck around for a bit and started to build prototypes. And then I've gotten a bit better. I'm still not the perfect circle without the splinter edges, but I'm working on it, and I'm proud of that. And so I think that this project in particular purposefully started from a learning place. It started from a place of being really wanting to branch into more objects, building, maybe possibly creating new instrumentation as the backbone of performance work. And then once I decided that, it was really a matter of always finding someone who's just a bit better at the thing than I am. And I'm really big believer in that, that asking questions and being like humbled to like what you know you do really well and maybe what you want to learn more about, and kind of doing that as a learner or as like a student might. And I'll also say that some of that idea and what you see now came from like a feeling of honestly like feeling really frustrated after working on performance work. Some of my pieces like would have really, really intricate sets, and I would work on them for 6 to 8 months, and then I would do a string of shows, and then the shows would go away. And I was noticing, and I did that for years, maybe like 5 years, and then I was noticing that I felt really super blue. And so I said, well, I don't really want to like quit making work. Like, what is it that I want? And I think what I wanted was for like there to be an object or something that would just like remain, because like performance, as y'all know, is so ephemeral. And so sometimes like the thing that sticks around is like video documentation or photo documentation, and that can be really lovely. But sometimes with performance, it feels like it kind of gets thrown in and you don't like have the time or sometimes even the skills to like really, really articulate how it's going to be its absolute best. So sometimes I was like feeling a little bit frustrated with what was left over after like a performance. And so I thought like, what if I like open it up a little bit and, create an environment and like maybe open it up with performance, but then you kind of let it be and like leave it alone and see what it can become next. And so even like hanging out and like they're still like twirling and maybe someone will have questions or play, like that's like what I mean, like that's kind of like the answer for me, like something that makes me feel really optimistic about my practice is like kind of keeping that going. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. I think there's something really beautiful about making something that, sits at this sort of like, dare I say, intersection of it's a sculpture, it's an instrument, it's an installation, it's a performance. It can be all of those things. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this like, one moment that then gets packed away and we watch the video 5 years later. And that's I think a really like exciting place to be, that it's all of those things and whatever else it is next. Yeah, I think that's also like the openness, like what is it next? And I think that's really, let's make a thing and then figure out where it lives in the world. Yeah, and that's, a great art practice, I think,
I think so too, and I think it's like pretty true to like the things I believe in when I'm like writing work or when I'm like even in the ways that I work with other artists, like there's not one way. 10 minutes later, this performance would have been totally different. I'm sure of it. Each rehearsal we did, different. The more people came in, the sound changed, like different. And so like, I think it's cool to have like a relic almost that can remain for play,
Yeah. Especially coming from choreography, that's never the case.
Yeah.
It leaves like with the bodies when they leave the space. Yeah.
So I think, yes.
The mics, I guess, are wireless. Is there a way in which when you're moving through the space, does it also somehow affect the way in which the feedback is happening, or is there a way to play with that too?
Yeah. So, well, the question was, is, say, the mics are wireless, do they...
Like, does your body...
Yeah.
I guess I figured it was, but that's very cool.
Yeah, where you are changes how it sounds. Where you move the speakers changes how it sounds. There's all sorts of, in this performance, right, there's like, Vanna was working with frequencies up there, the limiters turned on here, the speed changes how it sounds. When you turn it off, it gets like lower, sometimes more shrill. I don't know, I'm still like learning it, right? But there's so many different variables, but primarily like where you stand in the space, how you stand in the space, what you move, what you don't move, that's going to change it the most. So it kind of gives this like cool incentive for motion and like choreography in a just from a different place. And there's still so much further it could go, right? Like it's like endless, right? But that feels fun to me.
Hello. First off, I like the arm cuffs. They're really fun.
Thank you.
Yes. And then I was just interested in knowing a bit more on like, yeah, you're working with spontaneity a lot and what you're learning from practice versus performance, and if you're differentiating between the two and how that, yeah, informs you.
Yeah. I'm like, how do I give a short answer? So yeah, to me, I guess, and I don't have an answer, right? Like, so it's like a quest or like a curiosity. I think the ways that we behave, like I'll put my tea down, is very sweet, you know. So I guess like the ways that we behave, the ways we have like gesture when we're not thinking about it, the ways like, for me, I'll just say for me, like when I'm nervous, I sometimes like poke at this weird part in my thumbnail. I just, you know, and sometimes I don't even know it, right? So I'll just be in a room and maybe there's like a lot of people looking at me and poke at my thumb, you know, and like that gesture, right? Like it's happening. It's like a bit of my special choreography, right? And it happens like, I can't really always explain to you why it happens, right? And like that's kind of that not knowingness is like what I try to shape my practice after, if that makes sense. So understanding that there's many different elements that play into why I might speak the way I do at certain moments, why I might move the way that I do, or choose to not move, or become very still or very fluid. I really, really am trying to like leave doors open purposefully so that I can play with like the interconnection of the ways that I like hear things, the way I move, the way that my voice changes throughout the day. So it's personal, it's artistic, it's really shaped also around like, I don't know, I've done therapy for like a really long time, and like, and like I got really into it to the point where I think they were like, you should scale back. Well, I was like, you know, I don't know, I guess at that time I was like really a doer. I'm kind of kicking back these days. You should see me now just chilling. But like, you know, I was like really went into the therapy. I was like 5 times a week. I was doing EMDR, I was doing regular therapy, and I was doing couples counseling. I was doing loads. And anyways, I guess like, and then I also simultaneously have been working as a learner and a student in psychology and like neuropsychology. And so that is like my science brain, like really thinking about like behaviors and responses and you know, different ways of like that I might choose to speak. And anyway, so the practice that I'm building is very, very much comes from a personal question of like, why do I do the things that I do? And like, if I want to be an artist, and if to me, you know, what I most enjoy with artistry is like telling stories, how do I stay in relationship to that not knowingness while also wanting to tell stories? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. Bear with me because I'm kind of formulating my question as
That's
I'm
okay.
asking it. I've been really interested in like performer-audience relationship recently, so it's really nice to hear that like an audience can impact the piece. That's exciting. But how does the audience impact your performance? Does it? I don't know if you've ever done a work like this in a different type of space, but how does it feel to be quite removed from the audience, but also have them playing with you up there?
Well, that was a good question. And there's lots of parts to it. So like, I think that, this is a space that has chairs that are settled and they go up, and that is just the space, right? And so, I think that was when you walked in, like we cut the music, we like turned the lights way up, and, I don't know exactly if anything was said, but it's, you could have taken a second to like be around if you had chosen to. So ideally you didn't just like go straight to your seat. You could have like taken a moment to like chill or wander or whatever. So I would say that like I've done this in spaces too where people didn't know quite where to stand, and that was really fun. So meaning like if this room was like as big, and there weren't any seats, kind of all over, and so maybe a different environment, right? And so the last half, I try to like remember the questions as I'm hearing them, but the last question was, do you affect my performance? Yes, absolutely. Both. Well, also because I just get nervous too. I mean, right? I don't know. Somewhat. And also, I think about your time. I think about, as we were rehearsing, I would go through and I would sit in random seats. And I would try to see it from where you're seeing it. I do that a lot whenever I'm like rehearsing for anything or teching. I'll sit in just random seats and I'll like pretend. I always use my dad for example. I'm like, I pretend that like my dad was journeying all the way, and then they put my dad in this one seat. Would it be the good seat? And I like do every seat. I'm like, my dad could be here, my dad could be here, my dad could be here. And so I just try to make sure that it's all good, right? And like, so that's a part of it. In terms of like technically, like in terms of like the technical, like how did each person affect the sound in the space? I can't really say. It's a mystery. But do you change the performance every time? Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Hi, I really enjoyed your performance. One part that really struck me was when you were on the mic'd floor, and it almost seemed as though you could move your arm and change the sound because it was that sensitive to your movements. And I was wondering if I had just imagined that, or if you had found that space and were playing with the sound, or through choreography, or what that was.
Again, like I can't really give like a metric. I think like for being like that far, I would probably say, not to take away this beautiful connection and idea you have, I'm not totally sure, right? Like for me, like for the first time ever, when I was there in that moment, I was like feeling very much like this like strange pop star who's like backstage, like, and it struck me just like the irony of this performance, feedback being like the main thing you do not want ever when you are singing or doing songs or performing. You're like, it's like, please, no, none. And just kind of like the irony of like doing these songs, and you're like sometimes you're in duet with feedback, right? Because of the limiter, when I would sing, it would make the feedback kind of subside. When I would stop singing, it would come back. It was like an ocean wave. And during that time that you're referencing, especially, I kind of felt like this person just like in this the wildest show I've ever played, just like taking a second, like backstage sometimes being like, what is going on? And then coming back and like, you know, just finding myself in this weird like balance of like really like these songs, like when I really perform them, they're like really polished songs that like I never would have thought I would purposefully add feedback to, but I love that that's happening now. But in terms of gestures, like, you know, I it's only because of the location. I'm not completely sure like how much it would affect, but any other time, any other space, particularly within like this region, I imagine it would.
There's also a magic moment on the stage where, because the way it's mic'd, like, yeah, just a step means it's like, whoa, right? Like, there's a whole world in that step.
Wow.
And you just walked in a circle. And it was just like, whoa, like, this is a new universe. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was another special moment. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah?
So you had said earlier that like a big part of the performances was having something left over, and does that like sort of tie into the conversational element of feedback, where it's like, or I guess the fact that it's not contained, because I feel like a lot of times like if I listen to music, I'm like, okay, well that's like, if I listen to one song and then it ends, then it's like, okay, that's like a WAV file that I just listened to. So is there like, are you drawn to the freedom from that, and then also like the interaction between yourself and maybe extensions of yourself or yourself and other people?
I think I'm drawn to creating spaces that give people permission to do things. But anything beyond that is not mine, you know, or I really love like making spaces. And I love it when like I get to kind of like set a tone. Sometimes like if I go through the trouble to make a space, like I love to set a tone. But if if it's something that's like available to others, like I'd much prefer to watch. So I guess in that way, I hope that I'm answering the question correctly. But yeah, I think that it's not really about me anymore. Is what I really feel about it. Yeah.
Everyone's satisfied.
Thank you.
But I will say y'all are shy. You don't want to like play on the stage at all? Come on.
Actually, yeah. Well, where's Savannah? Okay.
We'll put these mics away so you don't get caught, and you can come play now. Yeah, but thank you so much again for the and
Yeah, thanks so
great
much.
questions.
Woo! Party!